again, welcome to Waterline Writers. I'm going to introduce our first reader tonight, William Hazelgrove. William is the best-selling author of 8 novels, Ripples, Tobacco Sticks, Micah Highways, Rocket Man, The Pitcher, Real Santa, Jack Pine, and The Pitcher 2. He received star reviews in Publishers Weekly and Booklist, ALA Editor's Choice Awards, and has been a Book of the Month selection. He was the first Ernest Hemingway writer-in-residence in Oak Park and has written for USA Today and has been featured on NPR's All Things Considered. The New York Times, LA Times, Chicago Tribune, and USA Today have all covered his books and features. Real Santa has recently been optioned for the movies as well. He runs a cultural blog, The View from Hemingway's Attic, and you can find out more about him at williamhazelgrove.com. I hope you enjoy his selection from tonight. William?
Okay. Wow, microphone and everything. Okay, I thought I'd read a little bit from Real Santa. Very simple plot. My 9-year-old daughter was starting to not believe in Santa Claus. How silly, because we all know Santa Claus is real. And I was upstairs real quickly, and I looked out on the roof, and I noticed the roof was really flat. And I thought, I wonder what the physics are of Santa actually landing there. And so I sort of came up with a very simple plot. Basically, an unemployed engineer who becomes the real Santa, hires a broken down movie director, hawks his house for $100,000, and tries to pull it off, and of course it all goes very badly. And that's Real Santa in a nutshell. So I thought I'd just read a few little sections from it. Very short chapters, sort of an episodic novel. And in this chapter, he's coming back home to his neighborhood. He just got fired from his job as an engineer. George turned into his neighborhood with a box of his belongings on the seat next to him. He drove past inflated Christmas globes that looked like incubators. There was a giant Frosty the Snowman, St. Nick, and a few penguins. George didn't care for the inflatables with the pneumatic pumps and the flaccid plastic on the snow like giant rubbers. He had come to accept the smiling pumpkins lolling on their tethers, and even a few turkeys during Thanksgiving after they had moved out of the neighborhood bordering the city 5 years ago. His country home with the wraparound porch swung into view. It was a Victorian, built around the turn of the century, and the realtor had almost not shown it to him. It's too old, she told him. George reminded her they were moving from Park Ridge, a community of old homes, and she had stubbed her cigarette and shrugged, "It's your nickel." George slowed to look at the lights. 2 weeks ago, he had lined the entire roofline with fat Christmas bulbs like his dad used to do when he was a kid. Most people in the neighborhood had their homes professionally decorated, but George took pride in the multicolored lights running up to the peak, the icicle lights bordering his porch, the swirled twinkles around his pines. He put a wreath on every window and an electric candle in the center. His house was Christmas, and he felt the hurt of the day subside. George breathed deeply. He loved the Christmas rituals. They had to buy their tree right after Thanksgiving and decorate it that weekend, complete with the old G-gauge Lionel train from when he was a kid. Then over the next 3 weeks, they would go down to Chicago and see the windows at Macy's and then Santa. After that, they went ice skating on Michigan Avenue or had lunch at the Walnut Room on top of Macy's. At some point, they would go see the big tree at the State of Illinois Center and catch Scrooge at the Goodman Theater or watch It's a Wonderful Life on the big screen at the Music Box Theater on the north side with the sing-along Santa Claus. Then they would catch the lights at the Lincoln Park Zoo and have a Christmas Eve dinner of fondue with chocolate. During all of this, George made sure they watched the prerequisite Christmas movies, Miracle on 34th Street, the old version, non-colorized, White Christmas, Holiday Inn, Christmas in Connecticut, Scrooge, 1941 version with Alistair Sim, then the newer editions, Elf, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and then the final movie, his all-time favorite, A Christmas Story. George loved Christmas because it was the only time he felt like a kid again. The rest of the year, he felt like an overburdened adult, getting older with each passing year. But at Christmas, he was young again. George turned from his house to find a Panzer cannon pointed at him. The cannon wobbled slightly in the wind and bobbed up and down, then continued its sweep in the neighborhood. He watched George's slanty inflatable warn all comers that Christmas would be brought in with a Panzer. It was an inflatable that made you wonder about the man. Why would anyone purchase a tank with a turret that rotated and flashed Merry Christmas when it shot you? He and George were neighbors in the classic Midwestern sense. They waved and talked occasionally. They'd found little to connect on after mowers and rakes and grass seed. The inflatable Christmas tank made its debut the year before, and George had vowed to take it down. He had purchased a Daisy BB gun, the same kind in the movie A Christmas Story, and one night, after Mary and Megan were snug in their bed, he slipped out the back door and snuck down to the 3 pines in the front yard. From there, George could see the tank very clearly. The night was bitter cold, and the electric pump worked to keep the tank inflated and turning on its axis. The turret wobbled and jolted along as George lay down in the snow like a GI in the Battle of the Bulge and extended his BB gun out of the pines. He watched as the turret rotated around and pointed directly at his house. Sometimes it got stuck and bumped up and down as if taunting George. George cocked his gun and lowered his eye to the sight. He aimed dead center at the tank and squeezed the trigger and heard the soft thunk of the BB. The tank continued on its merry rotation, flashing Merry Christmas with each shot. George listened and heard no hiss of pressurized air. He cocked his rifle again and aimed at the center of the tank, the soft thud of the BB hitting the polyurethane again. He then stood like John Wayne with a Winchester and began to unload a volley of BBs, trying to find a weak spot where the inflatable might give way. But the cold had turned the plastic into a tank, rendering the BBs as harmless as summer gnats. George emptied his gun and contemplated attacking the tank like a crazed soldier who's run out of bullets, but realized Shanty would press charges if he caught him, so the tank remained. George sighed and pulled into his driveway, feeling his phone vibrating in his chest. He glanced at the number and considered not answering. Yeah, Dad. You're a hard guy to get hold of. George put his Prius in park and settled back into his parka. Yeah, well, a job and kids, and Christmas will do that. Kids? I thought you only had one kid. Well, I do have another family. Oh, well, I don't count them. That's great, Dad. How's the job? George paused. Not so good. I got fired today. Jesus, fired. You got fired before Christmas. How the hell did you manage that? George shut his eye and rubbed his brow. Leave it to his father to put getting canned into the category of a choice. You opted to get fired before Christmas. I didn't manage anything, Dad, but yes, I got fired before Christmas. How the hell did that happen? They just pulled me in and told me I was fired. But what happened? Were you drinking on the job? Were you banging some broad in the office? George stared out of his fogged-up windows. In his father's world, people only got canned for being a drunk or banging Betty, the floozy secretary. No one ever got canned for a bad economy performance or because they simply didn't like you. There's a depression on, Dad. This ain't no depression. Let me tell you, I was a kid when there was a depression, and this ain't no depression. You still got your house, don't you? Yes, I still have my house, Dad, George said dully. This ain't no depression, but seriously, son, what the hell happened? It's your 3rd job in 6 years. 4th in 6 years, Dad. 4th or 5th, doesn't matter. George really didn't want to go down this road again. He felt kind of stupid and silly for waving his ass in the air and barking. He had to clean out his desk and office with his coworker staring at him. He should have just flipped Mike Soros the bird and walked out. There were some political issues, Dad. Political? What, they fired you because you were a Democrat? Yeah, Dad. They fired me because I was a Democrat. Jesus, those dirty bastards. There were performance issues, Dad. Performance issues? What do you mean? When I worked for the railroad, you just did the work. There was no performance involved. When I was in the caboose, testing the bridges, after World War II, Floyd Habersham and I were out in the middle of nowhere, and George sighed. The story of his father going all over the country in a railroad car with Floyd was a legend. He had heard it many times how he tested every bridge in the country, and big steam locomotives backed onto the bridge to see if the steel would give out. He was glad to hear the familiar beep of another call. And Floyd and I went all over the damn country. Hold on, Dad, I have another call. Dad, yes, hello, Jeremy, George said, feeling the good tidings of his only son. Dad, everyone at college has a new car, and I just have that old clunker you gave me. I see. Is that a problem? His 20-year-old son made a sound in his throat. Yes, it's a problem, Dad. My car sucks. And Mom says it's your fault I don't have a good car because you won't let her sell a house. George rubbed his eyes behind his glasses. And that's not true, son. We can't sell the house until the economy comes back. Mom says you're a liar, that you live in a big house in the country while we're in this shitbox. She shouldn't say that. Hold on, Jamie wants to talk to you. Dad? George sat up in the car. Hello, sweetie. Dad, I want an iPhone. George breathed heavily in his fogged-over Prius. Well, now you have a phone. I gave you my old BlackBerry, and I don't want some shitty old man BlackBerry. I want an iPhone. Now, Jamie, Mom says you have to get me one because you don't pay her child support. Well, now you're 18, and by law, I don't have to pay that anymore, but I do and your mother. Dad, I'm a senior in high school. I know, honey, but it's embarrassing not to have an iPhone and be a senior. George breathed heavily. His Prius was a steamed-up capsule, and he really wanted to forget about this day. I'll see what I can do. Mom wants to talk to you. George? Yes, Cynthia, he said wearily. I didn't get the check. It's Christmas. I need money. I sent it to you. You should have had it today or tomorrow, he replied calmly. It better be here, so help me or going back to court. It's bad enough you won't let me get out of this shithole, but now you stiffed me on support. Shithole, George murmured. So that's where Jeremy gets at. He knows a shithole when he sees one. I couldn't move on with my life if you would let me sell this shithole. George rubbed his forehead. Cynthia, if you sold now, you couldn't pay off the note. That's your opinion. And I got a kid driving a beater and a daughter who needs a phone while you're out there in your perfect home with your perfect family while we get screwed. George drew a small circle on his fogged-over windshield. I'll see what I can do for the kids. That check better be here tomorrow, George. I'm going to file again. The phone went dead, and George paused, remembering his dad was still on the line. He sighed and clicked over. What the hell? Did you forget about me? I would think you need family now that you got canned. Dad, I'll call you later. But George turned off his phone and got out of the car into the clear, cold night. He stood in the drive, staring at the lights winking in the pines. He felt some of the stress leaving. It was Christmas again. He heard a slight whir, a sliding of cold plastic, and turned. The pans were pointing at him and fired. Thank you.